بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف لام ميم ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين.
Interpretation of the Holy Quran.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. With the grace of Allah, we began a brief commentary of Quran. We got to chapter Nisa, the fourth chapter of Quran, which is revealed in Medina. It has 176 verses. Please listen to verse 3.
وإن خفتم ألا تقسطوا في اليتامى فانكحوا ما طاب لكم من النساء مثنى وثلاث ورباع فإن خفتم ألا تعدلوا فواحدة أو ما ملكت أيمانكم ذلك أدنى ألا تعولوا.
And if you fear that you cannot act justifiably towards orphans, then marry such women as seem good to you. 2 and 3 and 4. فإن خفتم ألا تعدلوا فواحدة. But if you fear that you will not do just between them, then marry only one. أو ما ملكت أيمانكم ذلك أدنى ألا تعولوا. أو ما ملكت أيمانكم, it means or what your right hands possess. This is more proper that you may not deviate from the right course. In previous section, we talked about this verse and we promised to continue a little more. Allah has said to the people that if you are not able to marry to the orphans and taking care of them justly and deal with them in such a way that you will not oppress them in any way, financially, emotionally, if you cannot do it, you cannot fulfill your responsibilities. You cannot fulfill your responsibilities toward the orphans. Then, okay, go and find somebody else. فَانْكِحُوا مَا طَابَ لَكُم مِّنَ النِّسَاءِ. And from women you can marry even 2 or 3 or 4. But with the orphans, of course, it is more difficult, because emotionally they are more sensitive and they have nobody to criticize you, to bother you. You can do whatever you want. If you cannot control yourself, at least go and find other women. فَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تَعْدِلُوا فَوَاحِدَةً. If you fear that you will not be able to deal with them justly, then one. So if you can marry and you will be sure that you can handle to deal with them justly, that's okay to marry 2 or 3 or 4. Otherwise, only one. We promised to talk about regarding to the permission that we have in Islam regarding to the marriage to 4 women. First of all, we should know that it was not Islam who allowed to marry to 4 women. Before Islam, they were married to many women. We have in narrations that some people converted to Islam while they had 10 wives. And Islam came and tried to order people to limit them, to tell them that you cannot marry more than 4 women. Not Islam encouraged them to go to marry to 4 women. Islam said not more than 4 women. If you marry to 4, either you should divorce them or you can do whatever you want, but you cannot stay with 4 women. You have no choice unless to divorce more than 4 women if you want to keep. This is one point. Second, regarding to the marriage, of course there is a question which is very obvious, that some criticize Islam, that why Islam has allowed the men to marry to 4 women. Women are not the material, are not goods, and men should not look at them only with the sexual desires. To marry with more than one, it means only they want to pay attention to their sexual desires. They want to fulfill their sexual desires, and this is wrong. Women's like men. They are human beings. They have a lot of rights, and men should not deal with them as a goods. And since Islam has allowed men to marry to 4 women, it means Islam has allowed men to disregard these rights, their respects, and marry to 4 women. First of all, we should know that this is wrong. If to marry to 2 or 3 or 4, if we will be able to say that all the time to marry to 2 women, it means definitely a person wants only to enjoy sexual desire, to fulfill his sexual desires, and there is no good reason behind that. This is definitely wrong. And even for 1 woman, when a man wants to marry, normally think about sexual desires too. But this is not all the point. This is one point. In 2 women is the same. Some men are marrying to 1 lady and they will not deal with them justly. If the man will not be fair, will not deal justly, and will be able to ignore women's right, even with 1 woman is doing the same. This is one point. And second, Islam did not allow to marry to 2, 3, 4 without any conditions. First of all, some scholars says that when a person has a wife and his wife is Sayyid, wants to marry to non-Sayyid, to somebody else, to marry for the second one, of course should take a permission from first one. This is according to some scholars, especially when the second one is non-Muslims, even temporary. But of course the majority do not say that it needs to have permission from the first one, but we should know that Islam has put certain conditions. I would like to point out to some issues until we will see that really it is just or it is not just to allow men in certain circumstances to be able to marry to 2 or 3 or 4. First, we should understand that any Islamic rules that we have, if we don't use it properly, of course, with Islamic rules, we can oppress. Even to marry to 1 lady. If a person will not be a good person, can marry to 1 lady and oppress her a lot, ignore his rights, will not feed her properly, will not give her the clothes properly, will not allow her to leave home properly, with 1 lady. Some men who are oppressors, who are not following the Islamic rules, they oppress even 1 person. So the problem is not 2 or 3 or 4. The problem is the man who didn't learn from Islam how to deal with the ladies. In the history, of course, we have seen many men who oppressed their wives, although they had one wife. And of course, some people had two wives and they oppressed both, three, they oppressed three or four, all of them. The main issue is to be fair. And Islam says if you cannot be fair with them, stay with one. Even if you cannot give the rights with one woman, Islam says, Malakat aymanakum. Go to the women, the maidens. That is not the marriage. In the time of Islam, there were some women that men could buy and sell them, those who Muslims captured them in the war. Anyway, Islam says, any Islamic rules, we should allow it properly. Islamic marriage for the first one, second, and three, we should follow certain conditions, and the most important things to deal with them justly, to be fair with all of them. Islam has allowed to marry to second if the second one, the second marriage, is going to help the family. Imagine the first one, for example, is seriously sick. The doctor said she is going to be sick until the end of her life. Is it better for the husband to keep her and taking care of her? Or if he wants to marry, he needs, for example, another wife, to take the second one and keep the first one. This is better, or divorce the first one and go for the second. Definitely, if he divorced such a wife, it is oppressing much more. In such a circumstances, it's better to keep the first one, although if he needs the second one, also marry to second. Islam has allowed in some circumstances, and this is one of them. We believe this is very, very fair, and this is according to the justice for both of them. Inshallah, in next section, I'm going to talk about this issue more. Thank you very much for watching. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.